Well, hi, everybody. It's another Conversations with, and I'm Dick Mon. Well, today we've got an incredibly interesting program, and I'm sure I hope you'll really pay attention to it because we have some interesting things to talk about, and it's regarding a public safety complex for the town of Charlton. With me today is Captain Rob Barton. Rob is with the Charlton Fire Department, and we also have Ralph Fisk, who's the chairman of the Public Safety Building Committee.
Correct.
So we're having these folks with us today. You know, what I happen to be, in addition to many other things, chairman of the Board of Assessors. And one of the things that has amazed me in the last year or two is the number of folks who really still think Charlton is a very small town. I have news for them. Charlton, number one, is the second largest square mile town in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We have almost 45 square miles of size of the town of Charlton. Second to that, we have major highways, the Massachusetts Turnpike, where we have 2 rest areas and restaurant complexes up on the pike. We have Route 20 right through the middle of our communities. And on top of all that, we've enjoyed tremendous growth in the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, one of the things that's spurred that is our tax rate is $13.50, one of the lowest in the whole area. And real estate values have gone up. And we also have a plethora of solar farms, which we look at it as the members of the Board of Assessors as unencumbered tax revenue. We don't have to do a thing for that. There's no kids going to school. They don't have to plow them out. We don't have to light. We don't have to do anything but accept the payment for their taxes. So we've really grown as a community. And that growth, still looking into the future, is continuing to look like we're going to continue to grow. Having said that, brings us to the discussion. We had a chance yesterday to go down with Captain Barton at the fire station, the one down across from the post office. In fact, they're both next to post offices, but this is Power Station Road. Would that be the main?
Yeah,
the
that's
main
headquarters.
That's headquarters.
At Power Station.
Yeah, and Drew and I went in, and it's unbelievable how they pack everything in. And I'm telling you, when I say it's packed in, it's packed in. And we have some beautiful new fire equipment, and it's backed right up to the wall. And not only that, but you explained that they had to have special, when they were building them, they had to have special measurements so that they could fit them in.
Yeah, when we buy a fire truck, go out to bid for a fire truck, and we start working with the manufacturer, they have a specific measurement that the truck is usually as wide as it is and as long as it is, and then we take those measurements and we have to tell them it's not going to fit in our building because our doors aren't wide enough, they're not tall enough, and they're not long enough. So they have to spend a little bit more money in order to make the truck even fit in the building the way it currently sits.
Right.
The building was built, a long time ago where the fire trucks were a lot smaller than what they are now,
yeah.
so they were able to fit in a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, trucks aren't getting smaller.
I mean, I go back, you're way too young, but I go back to Peter Push. I go back to American LaFrance, and those equipment were the in equipment back in the 50s and 60s. Mm-hmm. And to your point, they were smaller, and I remember the hook and ladders that they had way back, and so things have changed dramatically, and so the time has come to really address the issue as to what do we do. We have actually 3 buildings.
Correct.
We have the one in downtown on Main Street, this next to the post office on 01507 post office. And then we have the one that's 01508 post office. And then we have the Quonset hut. And I remember the Quonset huts were Navy issue in 1942. That's where they came from. In fact, they're named after the Quonset Naval Air Station in Quonset, Rhode Island. That's where the name comes from.
Wow.
And that's when they built those buildings, because they were fast and they could throw them up in no time, because they had the ribs, and then they just put on the aluminum and tin. And of course, I don't know when that was either brought there or put there,
So that building was constructed in 2005 when the town of Charlton received its very first ladder truck that we purchased from the state of Pennsylvania fire department, a volunteer fire department in Pennsylvania. It was a 1972 Baker Scope,
Yeah.
and they didn't have a place to put it. We needed a ladder truck. We realized that we needed a ladder truck. They didn't have a building to put it in, so they decided to come up with this Quonset hut. People may not know, but it's actually on leased land. We don't even own the land that it sits on. We pay a yearly fee to the post office and to the neighbors next door in order for us to have that building on there. So when we went out and for our brand new ladder truck, we got it on a grant. It cost the town no money for that truck. They had to have that truck specially built as well, just so it could fit into the station. And then when they got it, it was actually still, even the big nozzle gun that's on the back of the truck, it was still about 6 inches too long. So we had to cut out the insulating foam on the back wall in order for the truck to back up far enough, so that way we could close
The door.
You know, and when you say that, you know, to the average person watching, that's hard for them to realize and visualize. But what happens is, in an emergency, when there's a call, there's not enough room to run around the truck. You have to open the door, and the driver's going to have to go in through the big overhead door, and all of that's time, you know.
You pull the truck out first,
Yeah.
and then you can start loading the
Yeah, and so it's all of that is time, and people, you know, when you've made that call, and you've got a fire in your house or your business, and you're waiting, holding your breath till they get there, all of that's time, and plus the fact that you know, even at the station across the street, the main headquarters, those trucks are just jammed in there, you know, and so people and you know what, it's worth it if you really want to take a look at it, and I'm sure they won't mind if you go down and say, hey, I heard you guys on TV, show me what you're talking about. They'll be glad to show you because it's real. But the fact is, let's get back and talk about the real need. The need is because of the town growing, because of the size of the town, this is something that desperately needs to be done. And to that effect, there's an article on the town warrant coming up in May. I believe it's the 14th of May. And that article calls for
the purchase of 19 acres of land. We were able to negotiate a deal with the Masonic Home property, Masonic Home Overlook. The piece of land is directly across from the Overlook. If you're looking at the current police station, it's just to the left of the police station. It's 19.1 acres of land that they're willing to sell to the town, specifically for the purpose of a public safety complex. They understand the need for it based on the number of times that we go up to their facility. And they're selling it to us for an extremely reasonable price that we're hoping to take advantage of, put our public safety complex, on that piece of land.
So that's coming up for a vote.
Correct.
And that vote will entail,
Well, you're also going to have feasibility study, conceptual drawings, is all part of that package of the amount we're looking for. So,
when you say feasibility study,
well, the feasibility to put be able to put a building on that site. They're going to do test bores, soil samples, and this and that to find out how much it will cost to build the building on that site. That's part of that.
so it's a whole package.
Correct.
Yeah, the committee's been meeting for 18 months now, and I don't think there's any question amongst anybody that we need a new building, a new fire station, and we knew that we wanted to be up in the center of town for a couple reasons. One, because it allows us to, like you said, that 45 square miles that we have to cover.
Yep.
It allows us to sort of, we start in the middle and we can kind of get and branch out to all the outside areas of town. The other reason for it is we're on top of the hills if we're up there. Currently where we sit now at headquarters, whenever we have to go to almost every part of town, we have to climb hills. And
Oh, yeah.
even if we get the trucks as big as we can, we still have a delay in getting the trucks out the door because of the size of the fire station. And then we have a greater delay in getting the trucks up the hills just because of you know,
Their
the
weights.
size of the
Yeah,
hill.
yeah,
and
you know,
how
I'm-
heavy
They're full of
the
water.
vehicles are.
Yeah, well, I know, and they weigh they're huge, and they
Yeah.
weigh a lot. I'm just thinking, if you go out and you take a right, and you go up 31, or you go up Brookfield Road, those are hills.
Yep.
If you bang a hard right and you go back up, you know, you'd probably go out around Ted's and come up that way. But no matter which way you go,
You're going
you're going up a hill.
Right. The only way that we go that we don't really struggle with hills is if we come out onto Route 20 and we take a right, which we go Route 20 west, or if we go down 169 towards Southbridge, which is a very small number of our call volume.
Yeah.
So even if moving our fire station a couple miles up the hill, which is what we're proposing, the impact on that area of town is going to be minimal, because even though we're going a little further away from where we currently sit, it's actually downhill, so we're not climbing hills to get towards
Right.
161.
Well, I mean, I think another thing, I say it, I kind of chuckle. I think another thing a lot of people don't realize, Charlton's on the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
People don't realize it. I mean, you know, we live up on Lakeview Drive, and I got ledge in my backyard. I got part of the mountain in my backyard, and so it's interesting, and a lot of people just don't get it. And when you think about it, all of that is time, you know, and in any serious fire situation, time is of the essence.
No, I agree. And because of the time and because the call volume, you said the town is growing. And because the town is growing to the size that they have grown to, and it continues to grow to, our call volume has grown significantly, which has resulted in us having to put on additional staff in order to take care of the calls. From 2016 to 2018, just April 30th, you know, looking at a 2-year time, our call volume has increased 21%. We're on pace already for a 6% increase from where we were last year to where we are today. Just so that way we can provide the service to the towns, to the townspeople. And we do our best with the fire stations that we currently have. We're very grateful for what we have. But I think we've just sort of outgrown it.
Oh, there's no question. You
Yeah.
just, I mean, it's time to make the decision to move forward.
Well, firefighting has changed in the last, just in a short period of time. How to fight fires and the
Yeah.
people you need, the equipment you need,
Right.
has changed tremendously in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And the requirements to fight a fire is unknown to everybody.
Right. Well, then there's one other factor, and that's called safety. I mean, just the equipment that you folks wear. I mean, I remember when they wore black rubber, you know, and they had big black boots that came up, and the rubber coats. Now they're all in that day glow, and they reflect. Because when you're in a serious fire situation, it's easy to lose somebody real quick.
Sure.
You know, I mean, and by that I mean they go into a building, it's all smoke, can't see them.
Right.
You know.
The town has provided us with incredible equipment.
Yeah.
Not only the apparatus, fire trucks, the ladder truck, our rescue, our ambulances that we have received over the last 20 years. They've given us the personnel in order to do the actual call volume.
Right.
So originally the Charlton Fire Department was never a full-time department. It became full-time in the 1980s, and it only had 4 full-time firefighters. And now we're actually at 23 full-time paramedics. We work 24 hours a day, which unfortunately there's a lot of people in this town that don't know that there's firefighters there. 24 hours. We work 8 in the morning till 8 at night, 8 in the morning till the following 8 in the morning. We have a day schedule that works with some admin people.
Right.
So they've done 2 out of the 3 things. They've done the equipment, they've done the personnel, and now we're just at the point now of
You need the facility.
building the facility in order for us to do even more and do even
Right.
better.
Right. No question about it. And again, the thing that folks don't really understand is when you do this, you're looking into the future. You know,
Absolutely.
you don't just build it for today. You got to build it for what's going to happen. Will the trucks become smaller? No, they're going to get bigger. You know, and then on top of all that, Charlton has a water situation where you can't come to my house and put a suction hose down my well.
Right.
You know, I mean, you got to bring water with you.
Yeah, the town of Charlton, the three things that affect firefighting is distance, personnel, and water. And unfortunately, the distance we've already talked about, it's 45 square miles. It
Yep.
takes us a long time. There's some areas of town, like we talked about yesterday,
Yeah.
that we can be sitting in the fire truck with all of our gear on, waiting for the call, and that person can call us on the outskirts of town, and it's still going to take us nearly 12 minutes to get to their house. And that's not, that's with no consideration on whether or not we're tied up on another call. So distance is one thing. Water, this town doesn't have a lot of hydrants, so we rely on A, bringing the water ourselves, or B, grabbing water out of a nearby pond, lake,
Yeah.
or an underground storage tank. We call them cisterns. There is still a tremendous amount of town that has no actual water source.
That's right.
The town is getting hydrants through different projects that are going
Right.
on in the next couple years, but I still think that we're at about 7% or 9% of the
Right.
town is covered by fire hydrants.
Yeah.
So we definitely struggle with that. 1958, fire headquarters was built. It was built as an original 3-bay station, and it fit 5 pieces of apparatus in there. So think about how small the trucks were back in
yeah.
1958. And they built that station to last. It's lasted 60 years.
Yep.
They had an addition that was put on in the 1970s that got 2 bays added onto it. And then in 1986, they added the second floor of the fire station because they realized that the growth of the department and that they needed additional space.
Yeah.
So the department, like you said, as far as growth, they built the fire station 60 years ago, and it's lasted 60 years. Well, here on the committee, we're trying to build this new public safety facility to at least last 60 more years, if not longer,
Yeah.
as well.
Well, I mean, and let's just, we've even talked about the medical issues, and we have 3 ambulances, and the amount of calls that they make in the course of a day, they're going all the time, and people don't realize we get calls. I say you get calls for the Mass Turnpike. If there's an accident or something up there, and they need an ambulance, they're calling Charlton.
Yeah, we respond quite often to the Mass Pike for motor vehicle accidents. Currently, right now, we have 2 of our ambulances stationed at headquarters, and we have our 3rd ambulance stationed up at that station over on North Main Street just because of space reasons.
Yep.
So if the first 2 ambulances are out on calls and we need that 3rd ambulance to respond on another call, we have to put 2 people inside of one of our chase vehicles, and we have to respond up to that other station to get that ambulance to go. So there's a delay in getting out the door.
Right.
In addition to that, with the Mass Pike and with Route 20, and we have a lot of serious motor vehicle accidents where the special jaws of life, as people refer to those tools as,
Yep.
are needed in order to get the vehicle opened up so that way we can get the patient out. Unfortunately, today, our rescue tools are located on Rescue 1 up at headquarters, up at Station 2, so we have to respond from headquarters up to Station 2 to get that heavy rescue. Why is it up there? It's the only bay that it can be put into. The committee, the fire station committee, has been around for over 20 years. When they built Rescue 1, the chief at the time, Chief Harris, was under the impression or was being given the suggestion that we were going to be getting a fire headquarters fairly soon, a brand new fire station. So he built the truck for the future of the department. And unfortunately, we haven't done that, so they had to do a modification to one of the bays in order to get that truck inside, and that's the only bay it can fit into.
Well, what's becoming obvious is that what we continue to do is simply patchwork, and what's happened over the years is we've patched it up. Well, we need a couple more bays. Well, let's put them on, and so now the time has come to sit down and say, look, if we're going to do this, let's do it right. I remember my dad used to have 2 great things. He used to always say, whatever happened to common sense? And the last thing he used to say is, there's only one way to do it, and that's the right way. And so maybe the time has come to do it the right way, and as we go into the future, because we would be naive if we thought that Charlton wasn't going to continue to grow.
Well, one of the big things is that they're not making land anymore in the center of town.
No,
So
no.
we're going to lose, if we lose this, for some unknown reason, we're going to be in a world of
Yeah.
trouble.
Now you got to go find a place.
Now we got to find a place somewhere
Yeah.
outside the center of town.
Yeah.
The committee had struggled to find a place. This is
For lo-
like the fourth or fifth
We've
site
gone
that we
through.
had looked at. And we kind of just reached out to the Masonic Home on a whim when we struck out on our first 4 attempts of property to see if there was anything that they could offer us or if they would be willing to help us out and partner. And they were extremely willing to help us. They were very encouraging to us, and they
Well,
gave
not
us
only
a
that,
great
but,
deal.
But not only that, but let's say, okay, we're going to do this, and that property gets utilized and the station gets built. Now you got ambulances across the street.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Can't get any better than that.
And if you've got an elderly population, you know, right across the street from you, and I would probably venture that by the end of a year, there's more calls made to the Masonic Home than any place else.
Yeah, they are our #1 call generator for ambulance calls, and it's just because of the population
Yeah.
that they house there, the number of people that they provide services for. They provide everything from the Alzheimer's unit to the post-rehab.
Yeah.
After you go to the hospital, you get a surgery, you can go there
Yeah.
for rehab. They have the rest home. They have the regular nursing home over there. They have the independent living.
Yeah.
And then they have the condos. And there is a potential of even greater growth at the Masonic Home. There's still plans in place that they haven't implemented yet for additional condos and additional residents to move in there.
Yeah.
So they're very excited for us to be right across the street. They're going to be great partners with us for this venture.
So it's on the town warrant,
Correct.
and that's coming up. You don't know the number. What number is
I
it?
believe it's Article 18,
18.
is
I think
the
you're right.
is the
Yeah.
article number. It's May 14th is the town meeting
Yeah.
at the middle school.
Yeah.
We're looking for everybody to come out and support it. The fire department has decided to hold an open house on May 12th, the Saturday before, from 9 in the morning till noon time, for anybody to come in. We have a little presentation to give them, and then we're actually gonna sort of show them around to all 3 of our stations.
You know, the thing that I say, and I'm so delighted to hear you say that, because if people are going to wait till the town meeting to start asking a question, now is the time on that day, the 12th, is to go to the fire station
Correct.
and ask the questions there. You know, why do you need it? And you can clearly, as we did with some film we shot yesterday at the station, clearly show that the cramped, and when I say cramped, that may be an understatement. Cramped quarters, and when I was a young guy, I was a newsman at a radio station in Greater Boston, and I used to cover the fire departments, and I've been at the station when that bell hits, and those guys used to come down poles, they'd come down poles and onto those trucks, and when you see that energy that that bell generates. And being there yesterday and seeing the cramped quarters, it was hard for me to envision somebody running in there, jumping into those boots, pulling up that hitch, getting on the coat, grabbing a helmet, then getting into that truck and get out of there.
Yeah, we have 10 sets of firefighters' gear on each wall, and then on the right wall and the left wall, and then we have about 15 sets of gear on the back wall. So unfortunately, if your gear is next to somebody else's gear and both of you are trying to
That's
get
right.
dressed, one person starts getting dressed and they kind of have to wiggle out of the way and lean forward
Yeah.
in order for another person to squeeze behind them in the fire truck in order to start getting dressed as well.
Yeah.
Which, like you said, it's time. It's what it all is we try to get out the door in under 3 minutes from the time of the call to the time that we sign in service. In under 3 minutes, just because, again, the long delay of us having to travel, 14 minutes to some parts of town.
Yeah.
So you have a full-time fire department, and it's going to take us 15, 16 minutes to get to your house for no reason other than how far
Right.
away we are from where you live.
Well, I'll give you an example. I grew up in Malden. Now, Malden in those days, when I grew up back in the 50s, we had, 59,000 people. But that was in 3 square miles. Okay? We had 5 fire stations.
Holy cow.
5 for 3 square miles. Okay, we had the center station was right in the square, right across from my high school, as a matter of fact. Then we had Edgeworth, and we had then Engine 4 was up in Belmont. Then we had Maplewood, and we had Linden, and there was 5 houses, and then you got Medford. They had 5 or 6. Everett has 4 or 5.
Wow.
Melrose had 5. So the mutual aid, Revere had 4 or 5. So they could be there in 3 minutes. You know, I mean, that's how fast
Yeah,
it
that
was.
was
You know, and so when you understand that, and then we bring this back 65 years forward, and the dilemma that you folks face, it's just the time has come.
Yep.
The time has come, and so hopefully, folks will take the time, and who are watching today, will take the time to go down May 12th between 9 and 12 in the morning, and stop by the station, and just take a look at it. And if they have any questions, you know, talk to you folks about it, and you'll explain it to them. You know.
Yeah,
I mean,
we want everybody to come down. The more people, the merrier. To come down and just for them to see, not only to see the quarters that we are and the reason why we need a new fire station, but there's a couple plans in place as far as the presentation of why we need a fire station is going to occur. But there's also going to be a flyer that we're going to give out to show them a little bit about our fire department. The fact that last year was our busiest year that we've ever had in the history of the Charlton Fire Department with 2,450 calls. Our next busiest year was 10 years prior to that in 2007, where we only did 2,200 calls. They can look at our both the downstairs as far as the way we operate and the upstairs. There's a lot of deficiencies that we have as far as cramped space in the fire truck.
you got a building that's 50 or 60 years old.
Yeah, it's not handicap accessible either
Right.
for,
We have
for
no
anybody.
we have no handicap accessibility. Our community room or our training room on the second floor is actually open as an available space, but there's no elevator to get up there. We only have 1 shower in the facility in the fire station, so we have 5 firefighters going out to a building fire, and they all come back. And the big thing in the fire service now is to get the toxins off of us to help us have a lesser chance of contracting cancer. And unfortunately, with only 1 shower, there's a long delay and there's a greater delay for people. And that's just the on-duty firefighters. The number of firefighters that come in from home to help put out that fire, they don't even get sort of the opportunity to take a shower and to decon themselves. They go home sort of contaminated, as we call it,
Yeah.
and they actually have to take their shower and change their contaminated clothes in their own home, which is unfortunately just bringing those toxins back home to their own family.
Oh yeah, I mean it's, you know, when you think about it, it's like anything else. You know, if you never have it's like insurance. You know, if I knew that in the next 12 months I would not have a problem at my house or a problem with either one of those cars,
Yep.
I could save about $4 grand this year because I wouldn't need insurance.
There you go.
Okay? I won't need it. Now, unfortunately, I can't get that guaranteed, so I have to have it.
Correct.
And until you need the fire department, it's just the fire department. But when you need it, or you need an ambulance, you know, and I used to, one of my things in my life, I served on a hospital board of directors, and I know how vital that ambulance can be, because I used to be involved in the small town up the other side of this area, and I was town moderator. I was chairman of the finance committee, and we had when I first got there, they had a 1942 Cadillac ambulance. Okay, and this is in the late 50s, early 60s, and I remember saying to the fire chief, what are you thinking about? Well, it still runs. He says, you know, how do I get to town? The problem is, the longer you hold those vehicles, the less value they are. But the biggest problem is cost increase. So to replace that
It's gonna be
now is going to cost you,
astronomical.
you know, $80,000, $90,000, $100,000. But finally they did it, and that's the important thing. So the real thing, folks, is we have to be ready for town meeting, May 14th. It's Article 18. They need your help. They need you to support them. And if you have questions, May 12th at the fire station, they'll be delighted to help you out.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome.
Right?
Thank you.
So thank you very much, both of you, for
you.
joining me today.
Thank you.
And that's another Conversations With.